If you want to quickly understand the practical truth about Claude Fable 5, stay with me for the next few minutes. So, is Claude Fable 5 actually that good? Or is this one of those AI moments where a new model drops, everyone gets excited, everyone says, this changed everything, and then 2 weeks later, we all calm down? Because honestly, that's my question as well. Hello, my AI enthusiasts. I'm Khoshnaz, and over the past few days, I watched hours of early videos and tests on Claude Fable 5 with my coffee in hand. People are building games with it, coding full features, creating dashboards, editing videos, running agents. Basically, the internet is doing its usual new AI panic and celebration thing. So instead of making another random test video, I wanted to do something a bit more useful. In this video, I'm going to walk through the 10 questions that naturally came to my mind while watching all of those videos from other creators. Like, what is Fable 5 actually good at? Where does it really feel different? What does it feel overhyped? And if you want to try it seriously right now, how should you even use it without wasting your time, your tokens, and your patience? So yeah, I watched the chaos so you don't have to. Grab your coffee and let's get into it. But wait, before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want more videos around anything AI-ish.
Let's start with the first question, which is probably the most basic one, but also the most important one. What even is Claude Fable 5?
This is the first things actually that I wanted to clear up, because once you watch a few of those videos about Fable 5, you keep hearing Mythos, Fable, Opus, safe version, guide rails, and it just starts sounding more like complicated than it really is. So, simply put, Fable 5 in Anthropic's newest public model, and the big point is that it sits above Opus. So, if the oldest stack in your head was like Zonet, Opus, now Fable is being introduced like the next higher tier. And the other things that kept coming up is that it comes from this Mythos line of models, which Anthropic didn't broadly release it before. So the basic framing is Fable 5 is the public and safe version of that more powerful class with extra safeguards added. That's why people mentioned that if a request gets into riskier area like cybersecurity or biology, it can get routed to Opus 4.8 instead because of those applied safeguards from the Anthropic company. So the simplest way I would think about it is Fable 5 is Anthropic's new top public model, more capable than Opus and built for bigger, longer, and more autonomous work, which can work with ambiguity or vague prompts. That's really the basic idea.
And then, right after that, the obvious question is why did this launch get people this excited in the first place?
Honestly, what I keep noticing is that people were not noticing to this new model like, oh, nice, slightly better output. The reaction was more like, this new model actually stays with the task end to end. And I think that's the real emotional center of this launch. And that was the pattern that I keep seeing. People would give it something bigger, messier, more open-ended, and instead of immediately like falling into that usual AI pattern where it gives you something half finished and kind of collapses under pressure, Fable often looked more like it could keep going and keep the things coherent. That's why the reaction sounded so dramatic. And to me, that's the real difference in tone here. The excitement is not just about intelligence, it's about trust. Trust in AI, which is really rare in AI model. People are basically asking, can I hand this a bigger responsibility and expect it to stay useful longer? That's what made this launch feel more different than the previous one.
Okay, but beyond the hype, what were people actually using Fable 5 for?
Yes, I really like this question. Wait. Actually, this is the part that I cared about most because after watching all those videos, that other creators start using Fable 5. Oh my God. I started using Fable 5 for different use cases. I wasn't really looking for wow moment only. I was trying to understand where does this new model actually save times, reduce efforts, or let you do something that you probably wouldn't have done with other older models. And I think a few use cases keep coming up very clearly. So let's dive into them. One of the biggest use cases was web and app building. People were using it to make fully interactive landing pages, dashboards, small apps, internal tools, even fully productivity style apps. But the interesting part was not just that it could generate the front end. We have already seen this in like the previous models. What people seem to react to was that the output often come back with more product thinking already built in, like calendar structure, more sensible layout choices, better alignment, sometimes extra features or better default decisions than expected. So the value here is not just it makes a page. The value is that the Fable 5 can get you something closer to what you can actually iterate on instead of giving you a rough draft that still feels disposable.
Unfortunately, I noticed that this part of the video, which is related to one of the main use cases of Fable 5, was not recorded. That's why I record my voice while editing. So let's get into it quickly. The next use case for this model is the whole category of interactive builds, such as game, 3D space, and simulation. Things that you can actually move through or play with. And I think the reason this category mattered so much is because it exposed something deeper than just visual quality. A game or a 3D world is actually a hard test because many pieces have to work together, such as movement, state, structures, interactions, and visual feel. What stood out in those examples was that Fable often seemed better at holding those pieces together long enough for the output to feel coherent. So I would say the value of this model in such tasks compared to previous models is that when a task has multiple systems that need to stay connected, Fable looked better at preserving that coherence.
Another really useful pattern was working from references instead of from nothing. This showed up in screenshot recreation, redesigning website, turning visual into code, building showcase videos from source materials. And this, to me, is one of the most realistic use cases. Because in real life, we rarely start with an empty pages nowadays. We usually have examples, have half-finished tools, existing brands, or existing layouts. And what people seemed impressed by during testing the Fable 5 model was that this model can take those references and preserve more of the intent. Not perfectly, obviously, but enough that the workflow starts shifting. Instead of using AI tools just to brainstorm, you can use it as a translation layer between this is the things that I have now and this is the version that I need. Make sense for you? Another use case that I love it, which that was content and media production, which I think is more important than it first sounds for you, probably. People were using it with like video editing workflows, overlays, visual assets, and campaign materials. And the value there is not just it can generate media. The value is that it can compress multiple small creative decisions into one workflow. That matters a lot in practice because normally production works gets too slow, not because one task is impossible, but because there are 20 little tasks like structuring, adjusting, formatting, or like polishing and organizing. But Fable 5 looked promising in the sense that it could reduce some of that fragmentation and carry more of the production process in one place. It really matters when you want to like automate your workflows as a humans and take it over to the AI agents. What also caught my attention was the more practical side of the Fable 5, the kind of things that actually matters in day-to-day work. The clearest example for me was the subscription one that you can see here in the screen. Basically, instead of just answering a question or giving advice, the model was being used more like an agent. It could look through the financial or account information, spot a recurring subscription, and then even go into the browser and start canceling the ones that you don't need anymore. And I think that example is really useful because it shows a different kind of AI help. like help me to do the whole annoying task. Because normally something like that sounds simple, but it turns into the boring chain of little steps like checking what you are paying for, deciding what to cancel, logging in, finding the right place, I don't know, clicking through the settings, confirming things. It's exactly the kind of things and the kind of task that people keep postponing, including me. So when I saw that examples, my first reaction was, okay, this is where the Fable 5 starts becoming interesting in a very real way. Because I believe if it can handle that kind of multi step, annoying real life task with less babysitting, then it's not just another model that gives nicer answer. It just starts feeling more like, I don't know, something that can actually take work off your plate. I hope it makes sense for you. And then there's another use case that I think may actually matter the most in practice, like using Fable for long, messy tasks that normally needs constant follow up. I mean, the kind of task where you usually have to keep coming back, correcting, re explaining, and pushing the model forward. There is where Fable 5 started sounding genuinely different because the claim that people kept making was basically this model can stay with the task longer, it can keep checking its work, it can keep moving forward the goal instead of stopping after one decent response, you know. That's a very valuable use case because in real life, a lot of important work is not one prompt long. So if Fable is better at handling that kind of longer implementation flow, that's not just a nice upgrade. That changes what kind of jobs people can trust it with. And that's also why so many people keep talking about goals, loops, and giving it the whole job instead of tiny instructions. So let's wrap up the use cases. If I zoom out, the use case picture makes much more sense to me now. Fable 5 seems most valuable when the job is not just give me an answer, but help me move the whole things meaningfully forward. So that could be a product, a workflow, a visual system, a piece of content, a repetitive process, or even a coding task. But the common value across all of them is the same. It helped close the gap between idea and usable output faster than people were used to before.
And once you see those use cases, the next thing that naturally comes up is why would someone actually use it in the real life?
You know, to me, the practical value is actually very simple. Fable 5 looks useful when you don't just need help starting something, you need help getting farther with it. That's the difference. A lot of tools are good at giving you a draft, an idea, or a rough beginning. What people seems to like about Fable 5 is that it could often carry the work farther before you had to jump in and rescue it. So I would say if you're someone who build things, ship things, prototype things, or even fix things, basically, if your work has multiple steps and you're tired of AI gives you halfway, then I can see why this model feels exciting for you.
Then there is a question that I keep coming back while watching all those demos, which is where did Fable actually feel different from Oppos or other models?
To me, the difference became really obvious when the job was not clean and short anymore. Like if you give a model a small task, a lot of model can looks good for one prompt. That's not where Fable 5 is special. The difference showed up when the task started turning into a process. A really clear example was the productivity app demo that one of the creators tested. The person didn't just say, make me a to do list. They gave Fable 5 a bigger app idea, like to-do list, Kanban board, calendar notes, Pomodoro timer, even a little break games. And instead of manually walking through every pieces, they first let the model ask clarifying question, then gave it the whole goal, and then let it work toward that. And that's where the comparison started making sense, because with older models, a task like that often become very back and forth. You get one part working, another part is weak, then you have to like redirect it, then it forgets the bigger structure, then you pitch it again. You know, it becomes you managing the model the whole time. With Fable 5, the reason people get excited was that it seems better at holding the bigger picture together. So I would say the practical difference is with Opos or older models, you often feel like the project manager, if I want to try to make it more sense for you. But with Fable 5, at least in the stronger demos, it feels more like you could hand over a fuller assignment to the AI model. And I think that's why people keep saying things like give it the goal, not the steps. Because if you still use Fable 5 the same way that you use a normal chat model or a previous model, like giving it tiny instructions, tiny corrections, you may not even feel the upgrade properly. The upgrade seems to show up when you just say, here's the full job. Here's what done looks like. Now stay with it. That's very practical difference because in real life, the annoying part of the work is usually not starting. It's staying on track through the messy middle. And that's exactly where the Fable 5 seemed stronger than the older models.
And of course, if you care mostly about coding, then the real question becomes, is that where Fable 5 actually earned its reputation?
I would say for one very simple reason, it seems better at coding when the job stops being small. Like if you only want one little functions or one clean components, honestly, a lot of previous models can help with that. But the examples that made Fable 5 stand out were things like build the whole app, fix the bug that keeps coming back, or turn this idea into something workable, or keep improving this project without me having to re-explain everything every 5 minutes. That's where people seems to feel the difference about Fable 5 compared to other previous models, especially in coding use cases. A simple way to think about it is like with older models, you often spend a lot of time managing the coding session. But with Fable, the promise is that you spend more time redirecting it and less time like dragging it back to the track. And that's the real difference in real life. So if your work is bigger than code snippet, like apps, features, workflows, or integration, that's where the Fable 5 looked more worth using it. A tiny break time during the video. Let me show you the behind the scenes of this video and a beautiful rainy day in Germany. Enough, let's back to the video.
But we have to be honest here. So the next question is, what still feels weak, limited, or a bit overhyped?
So, my answer for this question is based on my best of knowledge right now. I'm not sure if it's correct or not, okay? The clearest one for me is like the design taste. And I want to say that carefully because I'm not saying the design output were bad. A lot of them were clearly better than older models' outputs. But also, I could still feel the AI look in a lot of them, like that polished, kind of glassy, slightly generic styles, or too many gradients, a bit too templated. So, my honest take is yes, Fable 5 often improves the quality of front-end outputs. But no, I would not trust it to replace the taste. You still need a human eyes there. This is my take on taste side. But also the other obvious limitation is cost. The cost that comes up over and over. A lot of people were basically saying, yes, this is strong, but it can absolutely burn through usage if you are careless, especially if you crank the force too high or let it launch too many subagents. So this is not one of those models where I would usually say just turn everything to max and enjoy it. The vibe from almost everyone was more like start with high, be intentional, and don't waste it on tiny nonsense. That seems like very practical advice here.
After that, I think the most practical question is, okay, if I open Fable 5 right now, what's the smartest way to use it without wasting it?
So for me, the biggest one is very simple. Don't use Fable 5 like a normal chatbot. That's where I think people can misunderstand this model. If you use it for tiny random prompts, quick rewrites, or small chatty tasks, you probably won't even feel why people are excited about it. The whole point seems to be giving it something with a real outcome, something it actually has to build, solve, review, or even carry forward. And because of that, I think the second big tip is be very clear about the end goal, not every tiny steps. What I kept taking from all these examples that I watched is that Fable 5 seems stronger when you tell it where you want to end up, what's done looks like, and what matters instead of controlling every move in the middle. And another important one is that use it only on heavier work. That's where the value seems to be. Like bigger builds, longer workflows, or multi-step tasks, or even review work. That's where the Fable 5 starts making more sense for you. And finally, I think the most practical caution is don't burn usage carelessly. A lot of excitement around Fable 5 comes from what it can do. But the other side of that is that it can get expensive fast if you just like throw everything at max effort and launch too many agents without a reason. So the simplest way I would put it is that Fable 5 works best when the job is clear, meaningful, and big enough to justify the model. That's probably the most useful practical takeaway.
And then there is this weird June 2025 thing. So naturally, the question becomes why are people reacting so emotionally to that deadline?
Because honestly, I get it. The whole thing has a very specific vibe. It's like, here, try this really powerful model, enjoy it, get used to it, maybe even start depending on it a little. And then, right when you're getting comfortable, now we talked about extra usage. That's why people are reacting to it in such a dramatic way. It's not just about the model itself, it's about the timing. Because if a model feels noticeably better for your actual work, even for a short term, you naturally start thinking, now I don't want to lose it. And that changed the whole emotional tone of the launch. So, yeah. I think a lot of people were not excited about Fable 5. They were also reacting to the weird feeling of getting a taste of something better and already knowing there's a catch coming on June 22.
And finally, the question that kind of brings everything together. Who should actually care about this model and who probably doesn't need it that much now?
If I'm being very straightforward, people who do real work with AI, not just casual prompting. Uh, if all you really want is rewriting, summarizing, asking questions, or doing small everyday prompts, then sure, Fable might still be nice. But I don't think that's where this model becomes most interesting. Where it starts making more sense is when you are trying to get real work done, like building something, fixing something, turning an idea into something usable, or automating a task that you're tired of doing yourself. Something that has a few moving parts and actually needs to come together. That's where Fable 5 looks most convincing to me. So if you are going to test it, I really wouldn't waste that window on tiny prompts. Give it something real to do. That's probably the fastest way to understand why this model matters for all of those creators that already tested in their real life. So yeah, that's my read on Fable 5 for now. I think the reason that this launch got so much attention is pretty clear. It already looks useful across a surprisingly wide range of things, from building and coding to content workflows and more operational tasks. But at the same time, I don't think we have fully figured out this model yet. It still feels like we are in the early phase where people are testing the edge, finding what it's genuinely great at, and also finding where the hype is a bit ahead of reality. So for me, this is not the final word on Fable 5. It's more like the first honest checkpoint. And if you're already tested it yourself, I really love to know what kind of task made it click for you or where it completely fell flat. Please write it down in the comments. And If this kind of practical AI breakdown is your things, please subscribe to my channel and stay around. I am trying to make videos that save your time, cut through the noise, and actually help you understand what these tools are good for in their real life. So thanks for your watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers!